I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please take the roll.
Councilmember Cooper?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Beaton?
Here.
Mayor Zelinski?
Here.
Councilmember Goodspeed?
Here.
Councilmember Schmansky?
Here.
Councilmember Grabowski?
Here.
Councilmember Pontiac?
Here.
City Manager?
Here.
City Attorney?
Here.
Finance Director?
Here.
City Engineer?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Public hearings, we have none. Citizens' comments on agenda-related items. Are there any citizens that would like to comment on tonight's agenda-related items? And please limit your conversation to 5 minutes and state your name and address. Yes.
Well, thank you for this opportunity. I'm a chamber member, a longtime chamber member, and I know you're voting on some support for the chamber's economic development proposal. I think it's item number 8. My name is Alan O'Shea, and I'm coming from the northern hinterlands of Manistee County. So the Coatmish area, and we've been longtime chamber supporters. I think it's a very important thing. I've found the chamber to be open to good suggestion and open to all forms of economic development. In fact, they've helped us in the past out there in Marilla Township, Springdale, the Coatmish area. So I just would like to hope in your wisdom that you be enough to vote the economic proposal as a positive move for economic development.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes.
Evening, Council. My name's Mike Herbert. I live at 306 Hancock Street. And I'd like to ask a question and hopefully receive a response, and would also like to make a statement. May I?
Mike, we're not usually responding to questions. Go ahead and ask your question. We'll see where it goes.
Well, I'd like to pose this to the city attorney and city manager. Can you articulate a specific, imminent, negative consequence of not opting out?
Well, the big, Mayor, do you mind?
No, go ahead.
Okay. The big thing is we want to be prepared when we have people come and request a license or a permit from the city for recreational marijuana. Right now, we have nothing. And we don't want to look foolish to say we're open for business, and then when they come to us, say, you know, we have nothing for you. We want to be prepared.
George?
Yeah, I would agree with that. That's the reason that we're trying to delay this for a few months so that we can be prepared.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. First, the City Councilman Mick Szymanski has pointed out on several occasions he believes that opting out sends a negative message to possible investors, stating, quote, opting out sends the message that we are not interested in the development or the potential development. This message could negatively impact the potentially considerable tax revenue the city receives. And secondly, it sends a negative message to the majority of citizens, constituents, who voted to enact this law, and that it could and is being perceived as working against facilitating the law and the will of the people. When Councilwoman Erin Pontiac 3 weeks ago asked about negative impacts of not opting out, the city manager's response was something to the effect of, if someone requested a permit, and I believe this is a quote, we wouldn't be ready, and that wouldn't be good. That's not specific, that's vague. Moreover, we can't eliminate all ifs. We can't eliminate the possibility of negative consequences. It's just not possible in life. In answer to my question as to whether they could name a specific imminent negative consequence, it would seem they were unable to. Curious. Shouldn't they have identified examples of spin before raising the cry of the sky will fall, the sky will fall? Thereby insinuating into the minds of council this scary, formless, shifting black specter out of your nightmares. The sky is not going to fall if you choose not to opt out. The sky will not fall. Don't allow yourselves to be guided by fear. It seems fear is being used to convince council to opt out. I can understand that. Fear works. Fear is a powerful motivator, a powerful tool, as witnessed by current events. They fear legal exposure in that if someone were to request a permit and be denied after already having made an investment, they might sue. I say again,
1 minute.
any business person should know enough to do their due diligence, and it would be simple enough to post on the city's website or by other suitable means that permits are not guaranteed immediately or in the future. But we needn't be motivated by fear alone. We needn't fall prey to fear of amorphous, nonspecific possibilities. If council wishes to facilitate implementation of medical and recreational marijuana laws, you needn't opt out. The sky will not fall. Simply set a deadline for city staff to have the provisions ready. In conclusion, without spin, specific imminent negative consequences of opting out, without being ruled by fear, while considering the negative impacts of opting out, while considering the negative optics and message of opting out is unjustifiable. I ask that you just let this ordinance die. If not, I ask that you put aside any prejudices, ask you to put aside any perceived, maybe misguided loyalties,
Please sum it up. Your time is up.
and vote your conscience.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anyone wish to speak to consent agenda items? Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, my name is Joe Hollander. I am a resident of Mason County these days, but I'm here just to support the initiative to make to give the chamber the opportunity to provide economic development services for the area. I think the chamber is great at visioning. I think they're great at networking. I think they're great advocates. And I can say without qualification that without their support, I don't think that the project that we have pending would have gained any traction. So I'm here just to support that initiative. Thank you.
Anybody else? Seeing none? Consent agenda. All items marked with an asterisk are on the consent agenda and considered by the city manager to be routine matters. Prior to approval of the consent agenda, any member of council may have an item from the consent agenda removed and taken up during the regular portion of the meeting. Consent agenda items include approval of minutes, cash balance, quarterly financial update, quarterly investment update, consideration of ordinance 19-02, chapter 867, recreational marijuana, consideration of a pilot ordinance 19-03, Hollander Hillcrest Apartment Development, notification regarding next work session. At this time, council could take action to approve the consent agenda as presented. Do I have a
I'll
motion?
make that motion.
Second.
I have a question.
Yes.
Can I make a motion to take the ordinance 19-02 off the consent agenda?
You can just make that request and it would be off the agenda.
I make that request.
Okay. I'll consider a motion to approve the consent agenda with the amended, with taking off 19-02, chapter 867.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any good discussion? Here, please take the roll.
Councilmember Pontiac,
Yes.
Councilmember Grabowski,
Yes.
Councilmember Szymanski,
Yes.
Councilmember Goodspeed,
Yes.
Mayor Zelinski,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Beaton,
Yes.
Councilmember Cooper. Motion passed.
We're going to move right on with that, what we removed from the consent agenda. It's consideration of ordinance 19-02, Chapter 867, recreational marijuana. Initiating Law 1 of 2018 was approved by voters at the November 6, 2018 general election. Unlike the Medical Marijuana Facility Licensing Act, for the city to prohibit marijuana facilities within its boundaries, it must affirmatively opt out of the law. Until council reviews its options regarding recreational marijuana, city staff is recommending that the city adopt an ordinance opting out of provisions of the Michigan Recreational and Taxation of Marijuana Act, with the ordinance containing a sunset provision that provides for the ordinance to cease from and after July 1st, 2019, unless modified by council before that date. The city attorney has prepared ordinance 19-02, Chapter 867, recreational marijuana. As an ordinance, two separate readings are required. The ordinance was introduced at the special council meeting on January 22nd, 2019, and could be adopted this evening. At this time, council could take action to adopt ordinance 19-02, Chapter 867, recreational marijuana. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I feel that, we don't need to wait that long. I just want another chance to discuss it and see if anybody's changed their mind. If every community is faced with the same problem of not being ready, so we're not unusual. And I don't see a fallback from it.
Well, in my opinion, one of the reasons we're not ready is because the state, Laura, has not formulated all the rules and regulations. And I would really think it would be a waste of our resources to try to go ahead and to do something ahead of what they're going to regulate and have it be in conflict. That's my only hesitation. And we have a sunset date of July 1st written into the ordinance, and we can change that at any time if it becomes a good, get regulations from the state and we feel that we can move ahead with it. So I'm pretty comfortable with it. It's to protect us and to not waste our resources into trying to develop something that may be in conflict with the state.
Well, as I've stated before, I think that it just sends the wrong message. The voters have asked us or have requested that we have recreational marijuana available. I think by not providing a positive yes, that we are going to follow through with recreational marijuana, again, it's not going to send a positive message to potential investors that, again, would have to expend a significant amount of money to get into this particular game. It's not going to be something that just anybody is going to be able to walk in because the prices, I'm sure, are going to be high, not only for city licensing, but also for state licensing. And again, I don't know how many of those investors are out there. I don't want to scare any of them away.
Mm-hmm. And I disagree with that whole thing because the people are going to be there after the clause, the July 1st. I don't see a problem why we're even worried about this. I think we should opt out.
Well, for me, I have a whole lot of problem opting into anything that I don't really understand. I don't know what the rules are going to be. I don't know if it's good for our citizens or not. And until I know what the rules are, I don't know how to play the game. So I'm just not in favor of it. I want to have the rules in place. Anybody else?
I don't think that we've sent a negative message whatsoever, so I respectfully disagree a little bit with Councilman Szymanski's comments. Since we did have a work session and we did at least identify where we thought it might be appropriate to open up a provisioning center on 31, I thought that was a step in the right direction.
Anybody else? Hearing none, please take the roll.
Councilmember Cooper,
No.
Councilmember Goodspeed,
Yes.
Mayor Zelinski,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Beaton,
Yes.
Councilmember Grabowski,
Yes.
Councilmember Pontiac,
No.
Councilmember Szymanski.
No.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Moving on. Consideration of supporting the Manistee Area Chamber of Commerce Economic Development Initiative. The Manistee Area Chamber of Commerce is moving forward with a plan to provide economic development services to the county. They would like the city to provide $20,000 per year for 3 years to support their economic development initiative. At this time, council could take action to support the economic development services concept that includes $20,000 per year funding for 3 years with the Manistee Area Chamber of Commerce and direct city staff and city attorney to develop an agreement for council future consideration.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, please take the roll. I'm sorry?
It's
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm a little hesitant on funding, having 20,000 given for the city and then not knowing how much is given throughout the county. I see the county's matching that. And I fear that, would they be working harder for the city? Or is it just county, that you're trying to get economic development? I'm for economic development, but I don't know if this is the best way. And then I would want more reporting monthly rather than quarterly. I saw that I would want more accountability
In regards to what?
of how it's progressing, what is the status. I saw in your agreement that there would be, you would let us know how things are going, but I would want that monthly.
Okay. I guess back to your other question, I'm not sure I understand. What the county is in at 20,000.
Right,
That's
and
what
then
we are
we're matching.
asking the city as well. So I'm not sure I understand.
You're wanting the same amount as the county or the city? Is this economic development for the county or just for the city? And
It's a countywide effort.
And I don't see if you would have all working harder for the city, or would you just be the same all the way around?
It depends on the agreement that we sit down and agree to with council and city management. And I mean, obviously, the city is the hub of the county, so there needs, obviously, that's initially where there's greater focus. But that has to be talked about with all of you to see what those priority areas are, as well as on Project Rising Tide, because we are a participant in that. So Mayor is there, as well as Thad, myself, my board chair, and a couple other board members. So whatever those priorities come out of that, that's what obviously we want to follow through with.
It's my understanding that the contract will address those issues and what we can expect, the services we can expect from the chamber in regards to economic development.
Yep.
So tonight, we're voting on the concept and drawing up the contract.
Correct. That's my understanding.
And then we'll have an opportunity to vote on the contract.
Correct.
So that's where we're at.
I thought that was more of, I guess I was confused on how it was gonna go forward. I'm just afraid it would end up being another AES, where we give them so much money and nothing came out of it.
Councilmember Pontiac, what I would tell you is I could tell that was kind of where you were going with that, because there was like a 2/3, 1/3. There was kind of a rule of thumb for a few decades in regard to that. This is an entirely different program. There are many players at this table, as opposed to just two governmental entities, and a little bit here and there from what we could get. It's a different day and age. The pool is much larger. We're continually trying to expand that pool of participants, because the more we can get involved, the better product we're going to have in that. We tend to get hung up. I mean, you're elected to serve for a boundaried area, but yet, when we talk about economic development, if something happens in Filer Township or Manistee Township or Calaba, that has a spin-off effect in a positive note if it's a growth for the city of Manistee also. And even though we're elected for a certain specific boundary, there is positive effects that go beyond the areas we represent.
I just want to add to that, we want to have a greater private-public partnership. So I'm not sure if everyone else is aware, but if I can take a minute to run down the current partners that we have since the last time that we've came before you. We have the Industrial Development Corporation at $25,000, West Shore Community College at $25,000, Manistee County at $20,000, Munson Healthcare Manistee Hospital at $5,000, Blarney Castle Oil and Propane at $5,000, Consumers Energy at $1,500, Filer Credit Union at $2,000. We also have two potential funders at Martin Marietta and Ironfish Distillery that are pending. Those are all 3-year commitments as well. So that's something that we want to have a greater partnership with our government as well as the private sector so that we can take that initiative a little bit further.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Well, I'd just like to say that, again, I think this is a great proposal. We're all in this together, the whole county, all of us, when it comes to economic development. And it requires such a high level of expertise that there's no way that the city alone could provide the level of expertise necessary anywhere close to a $20,000 cost. And again, by sharing that cost, we gain the opportunity to share in all of that research and development that's being done for everyone else. If the hospital succeeds, we succeed. If West Shore succeeds, we succeed. If the county succeeds, we succeed. So I think it's a good initiative, and I hope that we decide to participate.
I thought about not saying this, but I will. Economic development, we've tried different things over the years since I've been involved in city government. And I look back and I ask myself the question, how was that working for us? I'm not sure it's been working very well, and we need to try different things, new things. I appreciate you coming before us and offering this opportunity.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
We're gonna plan a work session, correct, after discuss all this,
We'll have an opportunity to look at the contract and review the contract. Yeah.
before we vote
Yep.
again?
Anybody else?
No, I totally agree. I think we need to be on the same page. We need to have some oomph behind it, and I think you're demonstrating that in your actions. I would prefer to see the contract first before I voted on anything, so I'm willing to go ahead and have one drawn up with our objectives in it.
Anybody else?
I
Wicks?
agree that we gotta draw up the contract and talk about this, because there's a lot here.
If there's no one else, please take the roll.
Councilmember Grabowski,
Yes.
Councilmember Szymanski,
Yes.
Councilmember Goodspeed.
Yep.
Mayor Zelinski,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Beaton,
Yes.
Councilmember Cooper,
Yes.
Councilmember Pontiac.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Consideration of Budget Amendment 2019-2 for fiscal year end June 30th, 2019. The City of Manistee is required by state law to ensure that actual expenditures do not exceed budgeted amounts. Over the course of the current fiscal year, unanticipated and under-budgeted events and/or council-approved expenditures have occurred. The proposed budget amendment addresses expenditures associated with these events to ensure compliance with state statutes regarding appropriations. At this time, council could take action to adopt Budget Amendment 2019-2 for fiscal year end June 30th, 2019. Do I have a motion?
Yes.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any discussion? Mr. Bradford, would you please kind of just give us an overview of the budget amendments?
Certainly, Mayor. As you know, we've started doing these budget amendments quarterly now, which I think is very helpful for both staff and for council to kind of keep their fingers on the pulse of things. We just have a few amendments that are proposed for this quarter. First one is travel and training in the finance department. One of our staff attended the Chamber Leadership Conference, or a program that was not anticipated when the budget was prepared. Labor attorney is up. We were asking for a $15,000 budget increase. That may not be the last one you see for this line item. We talked about it at a previous session where we have an arbitration with the police officers, and that gets to be rather expensive. So that covers some of the bills that we've gotten to date, but we still have to go through the arbitration proceedings. Grant management, an increase there just to reflect the fact that we received a FEMA grant. So that's being offset by FEMA dollars and also a local revenue sharing board grant. For the wastewater treatment plant, we did work with the rate consultant that did our previous rate study to refine the numbers for Manistee Township. We're going to be using those when we re-engage them on getting a sewer deal done. For also in the water and sewer utility, we have to do asset management. A lot of that is paid for by the SAW grant. However, it does not cover hardware or software, and we had to procure a server to run the Lucity software, which we're going to be implementing over the next 6 to 8 months. Those are the amendments that are in front of you tonight. Are there any questions about those?
Any questions?
Thank you.
Please take the roll.
Councilmember Szymanski?
Yes.
Councilmember Goodspeed?
Yes.
Councilmember Pontiac?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Beaton?
Yes.
Councilmember Cooper?
Yes.
Mayor Zelinski?
Yes,
Councilmember Grabowski?
Yes.
Motion passed.
thank you. Consideration of a contract award to complete marina dock and riverwalk repairs. The city marina docks and sections of the riverwalk were damaged the spring of 2018 cease event. I hope I said that right. Repair work has been designed and competitively bid. 4 bids were received on Friday, January 25th, 2019 as follows. Fisher Contracting, $635,400. Hardy Man Construction, $890,230. Great Lakes Dock and Material, $1,360,607. Coco Singh Industrial Incorporated, $2,203,043. All expenses are funded by insurance proceeds. At this time, council could take action to award the contract to the lowest bidder, Fisher Contracting, in the amount of $635,400, and authorize the mayor and clerk to execute the documents subject to final approval of our insurance company. Do I have a motion?
Motion. I'll second.
I have a motion, a second. Any discussion?
Yes. I have a question. By some oddball chance, if we were to have picked the highest bid, which was $2.2 million, would the insurance company have funded that?
I doubt it.
Well, okay, what if we picked one that wasn't the lowest?
We
Like,
would-
say, the $890,000, would
we
they
would
have
have
funded
to-
that?
I don't know exactly that answer. We would have to justify to the point that the insurance company would agree that the lowest bidder did not meet our needs and they were willing to look at someone else. But all of these have been reviewed by our engineering firm. They meet our specs. They're recommending the low bidder, and unfortunately, it was a little bit over our estimates, so that's why we're waiting on final approval from the insurance company.
But no matter who's paying for it, when contracts are bid like this, you look for the lowest responsive bidder. So it's the lowest dollar amount, but it's also the submitted contractor that's capable of doing the work and submitted the proper documentation for it.
I was kind of going through the back door on my question because I was a little bit worried that we were trying to maybe come in with have a bid that was low enough that the insurance company would cover all of it. So I was trying to make sure we were making the wisest choice and doing the right repairs.
Yeah, the process that we went through, we met with the insurance company immediately after the SAISH event. We started identifying what we thought were the estimated costs. The engineers followed up with a regional contractor that specializes in this type of stuff. They provided us budgetary estimates that we then submitted to the insurance company. The insurance company added to that a contingency, and so they set aside a pool of funds to fund this project. They also understood that we were actually going to design it and publicly bid it. So now that the bids came in, and I've submitted all the documentation to them, and we've got a representative that we're working with, they're submitting it to the actual firm. We just haven't heard back yet on whether or not they will approve it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Mr. McCullough, are you comfortable that the work that's being offered by Fisher Contracting is going to meet the requirements for the city, so that if we have another siege, we're in the same areas as we are now? Is it going to be able to float up? Is it going to have some of the flexibility that we didn't have in the previous docks?
That's a pretty loaded question. There's no design standards for tsunamis, which is what a SAISH is. It's a meteorological tsunami. It's not based on an earthquake or something. Certainly this dock system will be more substantial than the previous one. It's all on steel piles and has, what's the framing system? Is it aluminum?
It's steel.
Okay, so we've got a steel frame system with normal decking on it, but it's a more substantial system. These docks also have the ability to be adjusted, so we'll be able to adjust them with the rise and fall of the Lake Michigan levels, but they will not be floating.
A little different area. I'm under the impression that all of the bidders bid on the same specs. Is that?
Absolutely.
So whether we pay 2 million or we pay 600,000, we're getting the same work done.
Correct.
Do they go in depth deeper with those, Jeff?
What do you have the minimum penetration at? 20 foot? Feet, yeah. So the bottom of the marina, the subsurface, varies in depth, but we've got a minimum penetration of the dock pilings at 20 feet. So they may be 20 feet into the dirt, 20 feet out of the ground, they may be 20 and 40, but they'll be in the dirt for 20 feet.
Anything else? Hearing none, please take the roll.
Councilmember Goodspeed,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Beaton,
Yes.
Mayor Zelinski,
Yes.
Councilmember Szymanski,
Yes.
Councilmember Grabowski,
Yes.
Councilmember Pontiac,
Yes.
Councilmember Cooper,
Yes.
motion passed.
Thank you. Consideration of a contract renewal with Acumed. The city has contracted with Acumed for insurance billing since 2011 for medical runs. The new contract will be at the same rate of 7.5% of the collected amount for the next 5 years. There is no annual fee. Included in the revenue is a new software to allow for monitored data to be posted into our patient care report, a $4,500 savings. This software can significantly reduce errors and time completing state-required reports. The city attorney has reviewed and approved the contract document. At this time, council could take action to approve the 5-year contract with Acumed. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I just want to say that if they're going to throw in $4,500 monitor data, I think that's a good deal. That's the same thing they were charging before was 7.5. I think it's a good company.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, please take the roll.
Mayor Pro Tem Beaton,
Yes.
Councilmember Cooper,
Yes.
Councilmember Pontiac,
Yes.
Councilmember Grabowski,
Yes.
Councilmember Szymanski,
Yes.
Councilmember Goodspeed,
Yes.
Mayor Zelinski.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Consideration of a resolution to install a new street light. Residents in the area of Second and Pine Street have requested an additional street light at the intersection of Second and Pine Street. Consumer Energy has prepared the work order and requires a resolution from City Council in order to proceed with the installation. At this time, council could take action to approve the resolution from Consumer Energy for the addition of a street light at the intersection of Second and Pine Street, and further authorize the city manager to execute any necessary documents. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I'd just like to know why they did make the request. Why is this corner any different than any other corner without a streetlight?
This particular corner does not have a street light, and it's a dead-end intersection. And I believe the residents in that area requested it. It started from a couple years ago when we had the rash of break-ins, and wanted to make sure that they had some illumination in that area. So we've been working with consumers. It's a small dollar expenditure, but they still require the resolution.
Okay, so it's trying to solve this problem for a couple years now?
We've been working on it for a couple years, yep.
Okay, thanks.
Any other discussion? Please take the roll.
Councilmember Cooper?
Yes.
Mayor Zelinski?
Yes.
Councilmember Grabowski?
Yes.
Councilmember Goodspeed?
Yes.
Councilmember Pontiac?
Yes.
Councilmember Szymanski?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Beaton?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Consideration of the purchase of a surf rake and a lease agreement for a new tractor. Strategic purchases made by the Department of Public Works this fiscal year has resulted in a savings of approximately $72,000 in the motor pool fund compared to the budgeted amount. The DPW is requesting to utilize a portion of those funds to replace the 2007 Cherryton Beach Cleaner. Upgrading the equipment will result in a reduced annual maintenance cost, improved quality of beaches, and replace an aging piece of equipment. The DPW is requesting the purchase of a Surf Rake 400 HD from H. Barber and Sons and a new Hollander Power Star 75 tractor using a lease agreement with Allen Equipment. At this time, council could take action to approve the purchase of a Surf Rake 400 HD from H. Barber and Son Incorporated in the amount of $41,946 and enter into a one-year lease with Allen Equipment for a 2019 New Hollander Power Star 75 tractor for $3,400. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, please take the roll. Whoops.
I'm just gonna, what's the life expectancy on something, on this type of equipment?
The current Cherrington that we have is, it's got a life expectancy of 15 years, but it's a different type of piece of equipment. The way that it works is it screens the sand metal on metal. So those components have a life expectancy of 1 year. The engine that's in that machine, I think I had the year, the year of the current machine was a 2007. So it's nearing its life expectancy right now. We just had to replace the full engine on it last year. The new machine that we're requesting works a little differently. It's just belt and tine driven. So a lot of those components, I think, will last a lot longer. So I would say in the 15 to 20 years for this.
And the old one would then go up for auction?
Yeah, we would put it up for auction, and then the proceeds from that would be returned back into the motor pool.
How big is something like this? I mean, how big is that piece of equipment?
The tractor's actually pretty large. The piece of equipment, it's probably about the size of a small compact car, but it's a tow behind a tractor.
Okay. I was just
Anyone else? Seeing none, please take the roll.
Councilmember Goodspeed?
Yes.
Councilmember Grabowski?
Yes.
Councilmember Pontiac? Mayor Pro Tem Beaton?
Yes.
Councilmember Szymanski?
Yes.
Councilmember Cooper?
Yes.
Mayor Zelinski?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Notices, communication announcements. A regular part of each council meeting is a report from a cooperating agency, organization, or department. At this time, Ms. Stacy Byford will report on the activities of the Manistee area. I'm sorry, Stacy.
That's okay.
The Chamber of Commerce respond to any questions the council may have regarding this activity. Boy, I blew it.
It's okay.
I practiced it all week and still blew it.
It's okay. Do you mind if I approach? I got a couple.
No.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stacy.
Hopefully you right, thank you for having me. So I just want to give you a quick recap of 2018 in regards to what the Chamber of Commerce has been up to. Obviously, our mission of the Chamber is to build a sustainable organization to serve the businesses, workforce, and economic development needs of all in Manistee County. Our board of directors, these are the people that are behind, we call it the wheel of what's happening with the chamber. You may see me a lot, but these are the individuals that dedicate a lot of time and effort into what the chamber has been doing the last few years. I just want to point out Dennis McCarthy, he is our board chair. Vice chair is Jeff Rowe, Sherry Wormeister, our treasurer, and then our secretary is Crystal Young. So if you look at that list before you, that's a pretty dynamic group of individuals from small business to our largest employer. I'm just going to talk briefly about our membership. Currently, we have over 300 chamber members. And then membership by numbers, I broke it down by different segments. Obviously, Manistee, it's 68% of our membership is based within the city. Community events and programs, just a couple recaps of some of our events that we held. We hold a summer blast off every year, and we had record attendance this year with 120 people. Grapes on the River is an event that we hold downtown Manistee, and we've had over 300 people attend that event. Festival of Trees, that's partnered with the Sleigh Bell, sorry, got thrown off there, that's okay. The Sleigh Bell weekend. And the really neat thing about Festival of Trees is there's a lot of donations that happen, and we just want to show a quick recap of that. 193 unwrapped toys were donated this year to Toys for Tots, and then over almost 1,500 canned food goods were donated to the Council on Aging from that event. The Manistee National Forest Festival, if hopefully all of you were in attendance this year, we want to extremely thank the Little River Casino Resort and the Little River Band of Ottawa Indians for stepping up with the amazing sponsorship for the fireworks that we are able to triple the show. We've received a tremendous amount of feedback from that. It was synchronized to music, whether you're on the beach, your boat, or what have you, sitting at your house, you could listen to patriotic music in conjunction with the fireworks. So I think the community, as well as a lot of our visitors, were pleased with that, and we want to thank them for their support, and just to let you know that we're hoping that we're going to be able to do that again this year. Over the 6-day festival, there were over 40 events that happen all over the county, majority of them being around the city. And I did touch on the 3 times the fireworks display. And I just, with our Visitors Bureau, I touched base with them, and I just want to give you some information that they recorded for 2017, that those are some significant numbers that tourism has in our community. That's annually. She should have, hopefully I can get a breakdown of just July, but those are some things that these events that we do for this community bring that amount of tourists to our area, and that they spend that amount of money in our community. So that's a huge impact that it has on all of us. The Business and Career Expo is another event that the Chamber holds in partnership with Launch Manistee. We've had over 40 exhibitors there last year. We work with all area high schools all over the county, and they brought over 400 students to the beginning portion of that event, and 35 of those students received jobs because of that event. So this year we're actually starting at where we're starting to bring sophomores, juniors, and seniors to that event to get them to understand what opportunities there is in our community, whether it's a seasonal employment, whether it's right out of school, if there's a trade, or if they want to go right into the workforce, or what type of credentials or degrees they have to come back once they go to college. We held 2 workshops last year. The first one was an identity theft workshop put on by the Michigan Attorney General's office. And then we also had a breakfast and benefits utilizing your resources workshop provided by Consumers Energy. So those were well received, and we're going to continue to hold a couple more of those this year. Networking, a big part of what the Chamber is all about. We held 9 business after hours, and over 1,000 people attended those events. I highlighted the ones that we held in downtown, and this year we're actually going to be collecting data. So we have up and coming, and you'll receive in your packets an invite to a business after hours next Wednesday, put on by Munson at the North Channel Brewery. We want to see what that impact has on our other downtown restaurants, because if there's over 100 people at these events, how many of those people after our event gets done are going to TJ's or the Fillmore or Bluefish that they want to hang out in downtown? So those are having an impact, and we're going to try to track those for this year. The annual meeting and awards dinner is something that we're very happy to hold every year to basically highlight the businesses that put a lot of their sweat and time into this area. And I've laid out the business of the year was the Little River Casino Resort. They are our largest employer. Small business of the year, the Outpost in Manistee. They've been in business for over 20 years right here in downtown. Dan Bathrick of Snyder Shoes was Business Person of the Year, another business right in downtown. And then the Community Action Award went to the 2017-18 Manistee Area Leadership participants that put on the big day of serving. And I'll touch on that a little bit later in the presentation. Ambassador of the Year, Matt Nazaki, also another downtown business owner. And then longest standing member, PNC Bank, another downtown business. And we want to thank Blue Cross Blue Shield for being the presenting sponsor of that event. And then also to let you know that one had record attendance of over 300 people. Charitable donations, we've been tracking that annually now. In 2017, we had almost 5,000 that we donated back. And then this year, we've almost had 14,000 that's been donated back to the community. And then I just showed some pictures of some of the charitable. We partnered with Echo is Love and Meyer this year on Gifts and Gratitude for over 25 kids, and we got to take them shopping for the holidays for their families. The annual duck race is an ambassador program. It's one of their signature projects through the chamber, and we donate money back to Manistee County Child Advocacy Center. And then the Little River Casino Resort was the presenting sponsor of the big day of serving, and that's them presenting the check to the leadership program. Leadership development is something the chamber's very engaged in, and right now that is a 9-month program, and we're in our 4th year of that program, trying to build leaders in our community that potentially may someday be sitting in your seats. So we're trying to build those leaders. And then the program, I just wanted to highlight that last year's program, we had Michael McCann from the city of Manistee that was in the program, so I want to thank all of you for sending him to that. And then their community project, that's something that each leadership class has, was the big day of serving. And I just took some highlights of that. 400 volunteers, over 400 participated that day. So I know some of you were there. It was pretty tremendous day for our community, the city and the county. And over 2,800 hours, volunteer hours were put into that, 60 plus countywide projects. And then we broke it down, 37 projects were in the city of Manistee. So that program has definitely benefited the city and worked in partnership with the city. And then this year's incoming class, we have 2 participants from the city, Angela Rabb and then Brandon Prince. So again, thank you for putting them through the program. And then another thing the chamber is huge in now is legislative advocacy. We are a partner in the Northern Michigan Chamber Alliance with a focus on rural development and housing initiatives, infrastructure and talent investment, and then improving Northern Michigan business climate. And then last year we held Representative Vanderwall, now Senator Vanderwall, and Senator Boer, sponsored by Consumers Energy, a legislative update. We will be doing another one of those in the next quarter, and you will all be getting an invite to that. Here's just kind of a recap of what the Northern Michigan Chamber Alliance is working on for the 2017-18 and what impact we've had in Lansing that's directly affected here. And then economic development, thank you again for that funding, but just a quick recap of what we've done in 2018, and that's with a limited amount of funding and the current staff of the chamber. We developed and distributed a relocation guide. That's something we did not have for our community, so that has been in distribution. We held a developer day, which one of the developers is sitting behind me today that spoke at public comment. So I think we engaged him to come back to this community. And I know there's a couple others that attended that day that are kind of interested in some other properties, as well as some local people. So we want to make sure that we're creating that investment from within the community as well. So there are other people that are interested in putting some money in developing downtown. The other thing that we held was a HR roundtable with our largest employers. So getting them together, communicating with each other, and we're going to continue those. I have one of those meetings scheduled next week. Ribbon cuttings and grand openings, we had 14 of those last year. I won't go through all those, but the ones that are highlighted in the green are the ones that were held downtown. Over $7 million were invested in the county from those businesses, either new businesses or expansions, and a creation of over 40 jobs. I just wanted to highlight some of the economic development conferences that were attended last year. We went to the Grayling Developer Day and then kind of modeled ours after that and took it up a little bit, took it up a notch from what they did. And then the Northern Michigan Chamber Alliance Policy Conference, which I'll be sending you all an invite to that at the end of the year. And then Networks Northwest Economic Summit that we went to as well. Positive impacts to the community. This is what the chamber is striving to do for this community that we want to continue, and that's why we want to take a role in economic development. And then just a quick recap. These are the different committees locally and throughout the region and the state that the chamber participates in. I just want to let you know that I am now on the Michigan Association of Chamber Professionals Board, and that is directly connected to the Michigan Chamber, so you're connected throughout all the different chambers throughout the state of Michigan. And so I just want to thank you for your support, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Stacy. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next, presentation of the annual State of the Street Report. City staff.
Thanks.
See, what's your name now? Sean, thank you.
Roger, did you adopt him?
Good evening again. Sean's passing out the State of the Street pamphlet that we put together. Those will be available at the Public Works office and at City Hall as well. So just a short presentation to kind of give you an update on 2018 in regards to city streets. We'll just quickly talk about the condition of the streets, the work that we completed, preventative maintenance, our asset management plan, the transportation improvement, the transportation improvement plan, and then the future street projects. So when we look at the street network as a whole, again, this is based on the PASER ratings that we complete every year. You can see that we're pretty well balanced between good and poor at 44 and 42%, and that's the overall street network. When you look at the bar chart, you can see that there's been some slow progressive growth. Back in 2008, when we started the street asset management program, we had an average rating of 4.3 across all of our streets. Right now, we're up to 5.5. When we look at the major streets, there's still an upward trend in the condition of the major streets. We're at 50% good, but that also means that we're at half of those streets are in poor or in fair condition. The level has gone from 5.3 up to 6.1. The major street, I'm not even touching it. The major streets benefit from grant opportunities that the local streets do not. but they also benefited from a lot of investment with the utility reconstruction and the sewer separation projects. And so the asset management program has been investing a lot of techniques in the maintenance of those to keep those streets in good condition. The local streets are not in as good a shape as the rest of the street network. We've got over half of the streets that are still rated in poor condition. 35% or a third of the network is in good condition. And you can see that the overall Pacer average has gone from 3.7, I'm sorry, it's going on its own, 3.7 to 5.0. And that's due to some additional investment in the street network. So we're continuing to make progress in that direction. That's a list. This is just a page out of our transportation improvement program that shows that the projects that we completed this year, and we'll go through those kind of individually. The map that's up on the upper left-hand corner, the projects that are in red were projects that we completed this year, and then yellow projects were projects that we were able to add. I can't read that. To add in, correct?
Yeah, we added to it.
So we had some favorable, had a favorable bidding environment, and the projects came in under our estimates. And then we also had some additional funding that was added. So we were able to do projects such as on the right-hand side, 9th Street, 31 to Davis, and then 7th Street, Fairview to 31. We capitalized on a sewer replacement project and did a couple sections of 12th Street and Kosciuszko Street. And then we also rolled in, since those projects or the bid prices were so favorable, we also rolled in our annual patching program from utility excavations, and then we did a little bit of widening of the parking lot down at Fifth Avenue so that we could, it's actually was eroding away over time, and the parking lanes were taking, making it so that during the summertime when it was really busy, you literally couldn't drive through. And so we've got that corrected now. And then we also are working on our annual crack sealing program. This past year, we had enough of the material left over from the previous year where we didn't need to acquire any material, but we did go out for bids on the equipment to rent, and unfortunately had problems with the machine that they brought us. So we got about halfway through that program, and we'll be renting another piece of equipment in the spring to finish up in 2019. Our street asset management plan was originally created in 2008. We've been trying to do 5-year updates to that. So we're in the process of updating this overall, and when we get it done, we'll be bringing it back to you for discussion. The transportation improvement plan, our goal was to create a 5-year plan. It's really tough to go out more than 3-4 years just without knowing what the revenue and what the revenues are going to be. But also you're trying to forecast out the conditions of the road and matching up utility monies. So we do our best putting that together every year during the budgeting process. And we look at the type of funding that's available, the Pacer ratings. We compare it with all the other asset management programs. Whenever we get an opportunity to move those projects forward, we've been doing that and trying to match them up with other grant sources. Work that's planned for 2019 is quite a bit of street work. It's almost $2.5 million of investment in the street network. Some of that is capitalizing on investment in repairs in the sewer system. So the first line is the wastewater treatment plant. Why does it just go on its own? Oh, it's on a timer. Nobody told me about the timer. I have to talk faster. So the first one is actually the first project was the $200,000 that council allocated to local streets out of the oil and gas fund last year. But we also used money that's available through our rural development and through our wet weather corrective action program to match those together and expand that project a little bit further. So those will be 4 local streets that will be completely reconstructed, and it also takes advantage of those areas don't have storm sewer, So we're gonna tap into the existing storm sewer system and be able to branch out and drain some of those areas that have frequent flooding. And then future projects will be able to extend that storm sewer further. The second project is our conveyance, which basically takes a new sewer line from Fifth and Ramsdale, which is what sanitary sewer overflow number 18, and it's a new conveyance into the treatment plant. So there'll be full reconstruction of Ramsdale and 7th Street on that route. And then this Friday, we should have the advertisement for the reconstruction of 12th Street between Maple and US 31. MDOT just informed us today that it's all been approved through all their channels and been sent off to their contract department. So it'll be in the March letting, and we expect construction of that to begin in May. And then we also have some temporary repairs that have been looked at on a small portion of Tamarack and Harvard Lane. Those are tentatively put in the budget cycle in the event that we can get one of our contractors from the 3 projects above it to do the same type of techniques and get favorable at. And Sean put a cute little Band-Aid on there because it's really not a fix. It's literally just a Band-Aid, 2 segments. And then this is really a map of all the projects that have been completed and have been planned since the street ad hoc committee was formed and the city put more focus on investing in the street network. And then we just mentioned 12th Street, but here's a picture of the existing street, and we showed this at the neighborhood meeting with those residents. And this is what we anticipate it'll look like once it's completed. We bring the geometry and the drive lanes up to the proper widths, add curb and gutter. It actually doesn't show the sidewalk on the, yeah, there'll be sidewalk on the south side as well, but then also bike lanes. And then these are locations where we take pavement cores. So one of the things that we budget for on an annual basis is in that transportation improvement plan, we're always looking years down the road. So we contract out and have cores done on the roadway so that we can evaluate what the proper type of fix is. And we're always trying to stay 2-3 years ahead of that. So if we can slide projects forward as funds are available, we're in a position to do that. And with that, we would take any questions.
I've got one on the Payzer. This is something that other cities do?
Payzer is a national standard for rating the structural condition of pavement.
So based on that, I'm assuming that there is some statistics statewide to kind of know how we compare to other cities of our size?
Yep. When we do the asset management program, we update those. There'll be graphs that'll show the condition of ours compared to the rest of the state of Michigan. And then I think last time we did some similar communities. One thing that Manistee does that not every community does is the state of Michigan rates all the major streets, but they don't do the local streets. We have staff that are trained, and we go out and do all the local streets on an annual basis so that we can track it even further and deeper. But we can bring back some of those comparisons for you.
Yeah, we've found that a lot of communities don't have the local ratings, and we've been working with the state. They're trying to bring those numbers up and trying to share that data. So I think with time, we're going to see more and more communities ratings on their local streets.
It's kind of off topic, but I want to commend you guys for doing a good job with last week's weather. That was pretty tough. So you guys did a great job, and being out in that weather was amazing. So.
I agree. I think the guys did a great job. Appreciate that.
And not just on the roads, on the sidewalks as well. I thought that they really worked very hard this time on getting sidewalks cleared. So kids didn't have to walk in the street. I saw that they were really making a good effort. So good job.
Thank you.
Well, I just want to comment that some of our city employees got caught doing a good deed It's much appreciated. Pushing people out of the ditches, helping them get around, helping them get through some troubled times, it's much appreciated. Anybody else? Thank you. Citizens' comments. This is an opportunity for citizens to comment on municipal services, activities, or areas of city involvement. Citizens in attendance shall be recognized by the mayor for comments limited to 5 minutes. Letters submitted to council will not be publicly read. Are there any citizens who'd like to make a comment?
Luna Walker, 421 Fifth Street. I came and spoke before about the deer call, and I just got some information sent to me today from Jill Fritz. And Jill Fritz, I don't know who was around here in 2015 because I wasn't, but she came here in 2015 in behalf of the Humane Society when they were the city council was talking about a call. And by the way, she loves Manistee. And she is now the director of wildlife protection for the United States. She's in Washington, D.C. So she sent what they have, it's called Solving Problems with Deer. And they have a whole plan for cities. And this is something that they've just come up with to help people with these problems. And so I brought a copy to give you all. And by a miracle, my printer did it. And then I also just put in a copy of her letter that she wrote to the council in 2015. Maybe you still have it on file, but if not, it gives you an idea what she presented at that time. And that was the presentation I was talking about the Humane Society does for towns, for the community, for everybody to see information about the call. And also, excuse me, I just made it with this. And so I'm going to write her new phone number and everything, because in this letter, one thing she points out is that the reason that calls really don't work, and that's because the deer have this amazing communication. The closest thing we're used to in our culture is how your dog knows when you're going on a trip, and they're always like following you around, or they're sitting by your suitcase or whatever. But the deer know when something like this is happening. And so what they do is, since it's like a herd, their whole chemistry changes, the rate at which they reproduce speeds up. The females will have twins or triplets if a bunch of the deer are being shot. And so then, after the call, the people go, well, it's still, the next year they go, it still looks like there's a lot of deer. Look how long the deer have been on the planet. So they have this communication going. So I honestly have not had a chance to read this. I just printed it and came over here. So I'm looking forward to reading it. And I would also like I don't know the proper ways you're supposed to do things in this, with the city council in this town, but I would like to know who would be the appropriate person as I get more information to talk with, or who's working.
Funnel it through our city manager, Mr. Taylor, right over here.
Mr. Taylor, nice to meet you. Thank you very much. Okay, that's it. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
As soon as I write her phone number down, I'll be ready to give this to you guys.
Okay. Anybody else? Seeing none, city and staff. Mr. Taylor?
Nothing at this time.
Mr. Saylor?
Your Honor, it's a little atypical for me to speak at these meetings at this point, but I just wanted to explain to council where we're at with recreational marijuana and also provisioning centers under the medical marijuana ordinance that we have in effect right now. The extension of the sunset provision was primarily to deal with the zoning side of this. There's a number of public hearings that are required, and that process takes longer than the codified ordinance part of it, which I'm working on. But rest assured that we have heard council's direction on moving this forward as quickly as possible. We had our second or third meeting just this morning on this issue. The city manager is certainly keeping after myself and Mr. Carson on what we need to do. And it would not surprise me in the least if we're present to council an ordinance well before the July 1st sunset provision. And so we're working on it actively and vigorously, and the city manager is keeping after us in the same method. And so, again, it wouldn't surprise me if we have something well before July 1st for you.
Thank you. City engineer.
Nothing at this time, Your Honor, unless you'd like an update on.
Are we still moving forward on time? We're still on time schedule? MDOT's still getting back to you on a regular basis?
The DEQ's we're still waiting on some things back from them, but our next deadline is the end of this month. We have to submit plans to the DEQ, and we're on track to do that. We're gonna be meeting with the city on Friday with Jeff and Rick and probably Bruce to talk about a lot of our design issues. And after that, we'll be preparing the next 3 plans that'll go to the DEQ. They won't be final plans, but they'll be plans adequate for getting the permitting review process started with them. We still are waiting a few